And we are live. What's going on, guys? I am H3 the Game, and I'm here with my co-host, Cross. What's going on, man? How you feeling?
I'm doing all right.
Okay. And we got the immortal Afro Josh. What's going on with you, brother?
Nothing much, man. Doing pretty good. Just enjoying some time, chilling with the boys, and playing some Marvel Rivals.
Okay, yeah, we was playing last night.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun, wasn't
Yeah, I was pushing my one button,
it?
and taking up all the damage. I'm not gonna lie, it was fun. It was fun. I can't lie.
Oh yeah,
You know, I had to kind of pick up somebody else because trying to play with Winter Soldier, I got to actually play.
yeah. Gotta aim and be accurate and
Yeah.
skillful.
So I rather just hold my one button down and let everybody hit me, and you know, not have to think too much.
Yeah, that's also a working strategy.
Yeah, but I think we got a good show today. I've been kind of want to talk about this for a while now, um, because of the atmosphere or kind of community that's kind of evolved into what it is today. But yeah, today I want to talk about the FGC culture, and pretty much, what it's evolved into over the years. And something that I noticed that I haven't been doing, like, so of course we're in the FGC. We live it, we breathe it, but
Some of
we're,
us are.
some of us are. But I there's probably a good chunk of the audience that probably doesn't even know what the FGC is. So I have to do a better job of kind of explaining what certain things are because not everybody knows, right?
Yeah,
So I kind of want to start off by kind of explaining what a community is. What is a community in gaming? I'm gonna try to do my best to explain it here, and if you guys want to chime in, feel free to. But uh, essentially, when we talk about community, we're talking about video game communities, and there's many communities. There's many types of games that you can play. You got sports, you got racing, you got fighting games, you got RPGs. So there are many communities. And in those communities, there are the games themselves, which have their own communities as well. Like, for instance, let's just say, for the sake of explanation, that we all play sports games, right?
hmm
So we all play sports games, but in that sports game category, we all play different things. So I can like sports games, but I like Madden. Cross can like sports games, but he play NBA 2K. You know, Josh could like sports games, but he plays FIFA. So those communities are kind of reflective of like what you pretty much play. And some people, they dibble and dabble in everything. Some people just play everything. But in the context of today, we want to talk about the fighting game community, which we've, like I said, we live it, we breathe it, we've been in it for so many years. Um, you know, and I'll bring up like old videos of me like in tournaments and stuff, getting beat up. Like, I don't. It's like watching your old matches is like embarrassing sometimes, but it'd be funny too. So I'm
yeah.
gonna share like a lot of my matches while we're kind of discussing the FGC, and you know, play some videos for you guys. But my first question for you guys is: so when you hear the word FGC, what is the first thing that comes to mind for you guys?
Deceased.
Deceased.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I gotta be honest, her man. Like the FGC that I grew up in and was a part of. back in the hey, look at that, yeah, young Herbert. Back in the
I just like I said, I would get off from work and I would go straight to like these tournaments. And it was very, very tiring. But I
yeah,
would
but
because I love the community. I love the people I was playing with. Like win or lose, I loved it, you know?
yeah, I did too at one point. I think my love for the community peaked around Tag 2, Street Fighter 4, Dead or Alive 5, and it's just kind of been downhill ever since. Like, I'll talk about the good first, because like
Well,
there's
what is the first thing that you think of when you hear FGC? Is it really deceased?
yeah, absolutely, 100%. Because right now the FGC today, I think, is a caricature of what it once was because of how involved everyone wants to be. Like the FGC, I like one thing I liked about it in the past was that it felt a lot more exclusive. It felt like the
Yeah.
people that were here genuinely wanted to be here, and they didn't. There was no compromises. There was a pecking order. There was a bottom. There was the bottom of the totem pole, and then there was the top of the totem pole. And at the very top was the cream of the crop rises to the top.
Yeah.
And it was very cutthroat, and I
Yeah.
liked that about it. Of course, when I was first getting into it, I had my reservations. And that was before I realized that I was a lot better than I thought I was, and the community was very accommodating. Like it wasn't like this, like, oh yeah, if you're welcome to the what's that old SpongeBob, the salty splatoon, how tough are you? It was like that, but everybody was also like, yeah, you're not that tough, but you have it. You have
Yeah.
that the potential's there, and we're
Yeah.
gonna we're gonna form you into a diamond. Right now,
Yeah.
you're just a bunch of sand, but by
Yeah.
the time we're done with you, you're gonna be something to be worried about. And
Yeah.
I got nicknamed the robot because it was so thick.
Yeah. It was a good time. What about you, Cross? What was the first thing that comes to mind when you hear FGC?
Um, hmm, I guess now what I think of when the first, like when I hear FGC now, I think of the first word I think of is something like fake
Hmm.
or manufactured. I think that's probably the best way to put it. Manufactured. I think that's what I think.
I agree for sure.
Because it's like it's kind of like you know, what was said before. It's like the people who were there. There was not a reason to be a part of the FG. Like the FGC wasn't really an FGC before. There wasn't a fighting game community before. There were fighting game communities based around each individual game, and there wasn't a collective community. The Tekken community was the Tekken community. The Street Fighter community was the Street Fighter community.
Mhm.
So on and so forth. And Street Fighter and Marvel were about the only games that were connected to each other. And they were what was considered the FGC. It was Street Fighter and Marvel. And
Hmm.
every other community had to fight and claw their way to legitimacy in their eyes because they're the ones who had the tournaments that if anyone were going to care outside, that they would look there. And so because of that, prior to gaining that respect, anyone who was there because they loved the game that they were playing and they simply formed a community out of necessity, not because they necessarily wanted to be a part of a community, but they just wanted people to play against. They were just surprised that, wow, people take this game as seriously as I do. There's someone out there that is as good as I am or better. You know, it's like back in the day, it was everyone's had, back in the day, that experience where you thought you were the shit and then you placed against somebody and they were leagues better than you. And you
Yeah,
didn't even realize that people could be that much better. You're like, whoa, this guy is way better than me. And it didn't make you quit playing the game. It made you excited. You're like, wow, you can get to this level. So I want to play to that level. The community was mostly like not the community, but the communities for each individual game was those things. But as all the communities began to form under one community, then what ended up happening is that game developers and content creators, community leaders for each one of these games started to attract people who wanted to be a part of the community just because it was a community, because the
yeah,
community itself seemed to be fun to know about. They just want to be in the end. They want to know why watching this fighting game is so fun to watch, because to them it's boring as fuck. But it looks like you're having a lot of fun with this whole group of people, and they want to have fun with you because they're bored. And so they're not joining. The reason why you joined and why the people around you joined is completely different for why they joined. They joined
yeah,
because they saw a group of people having fun. You joined because you wanted to simply fight other people and grow stronger at the game. And you're trying to find others like that. And those are two different things. And now what the community is filled with mostly people who really don't play the game, no matter what game you're talking about.
yeah,
And because of that, um, of course, people are going, both companies and content creators are going to farm those exact people for money in one
yeah,
way, shape, or form.
yeah,
And so it becomes less about the game and becomes more about how do we farm these people for money. And the games become about that too.
yeah,
And so that's why I say manufactured, because before, the game developers are just trying to make the game that they thought was the ideal fighting game. And the people who played that game were the people who agreed.
yeah. I feel you
So,
on that one. I feel you on that one. Um, for me, when I hear the words FGC, man, I can't help but smile. Like I think about all the good times, all the trash talking, uh, like uh, all the people and friends that I've made, just man, through the community. Like, of course, tier lists. Who's top tier? Who's low tier? Who's mid tier? It's like, man, it's so many things. Like the nights where we would just play for hours, right?
mhm.
And then everybody would be like, um, all right, well, we all hungry, so let's go and get something to eat. We play for hours and we'll go to IHOP. We'll go to wherever, McDonald's, and then we all come back to the same location, eat, and then play for some more hours.
Yeah.
It was just, I think about all of the fun times, man. That's just me. It's like I know that it's changed over the years as far as the community, but man, I love it. Like I can't help but smile. But we're in a new age of gaming now, to where a lot of the community is online. A lot of people play online. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of people play online. A lot of people get all their researches from YouTube and Twitter and Instagram, and so for the most part, you can learn a lot of things on your own. Um, and that brings me to my next question. With all of that said, like, do we still need a fighting game community? So, what are your thoughts?
I don't. I don't think so. I think the time for the fighting game community, as I would have liked for it to be, is gone. And I don't think it's something that could come back in this current environment and atmosphere because, kind of like Cross said, there's too many potholes and obstructions to keep it. I mean, okay, well, I think it is possible for it to come back, but it has to be very small, very exclusive, very niche. But it can't just be fighting game community. It has to kind of be like how Cross said before. Oh, this is the Guilty Gear guys, the Tekken guys, or this game, that game's community, and just those
Yeah.
players. And with the very little in between, like the people who play multiple games, like, all right, I'm turning my brain into gear time. All right, see you guys later. I'm gonna go hang out with the Street Fighter guys, and I have no desire to try to mix the two.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's what if there's any chance for that in the future, that's gonna have to be the way it is. Because like this whole idea of everyone being on the same page and being all hunky dory friendly, I think it's all fake gay bullshit. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's just too much. There's too many distractions to kind of to keep it the way it was, like
Yeah.
influencers, YouTubers, brands, and
Yeah.
even the game companies themselves. So it's like I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why sometimes I don't even think it's even a thing anymore. I'd like for it to be, but man,
I feel you on that one. What about you, Cross? Do we still need a fighting game community?
I think that fighting games is I think that fighting games will form a community no matter what
Yeah.
because they're naturally
Agree.
competitive. And so to say, do they need one or not, it's kind of like, do you need air to breathe? It's
Mm-hmm.
like it's a function of living. So, you know, fighting games will form a community. It doesn't matter how shitty they are. It doesn't matter how far away people are. Doesn't matter how bad the internet is. A
Mm-hmm.
community will be formed. It'll either be formed on a local level or on a global level. Just depends on how easy it is to be able to do, what, and how motivated people are to play the game or whatever. Now, the quality of the community, that's different.
Yeah.
That's a different, question or story or whatever. But as for does it need one? I mean, yeah, sure. Like, because you need people to play. Um, People are going to seek each other out to play each other in, a fighting game. So, like, even if they have to go and find them, someone's going to want to play real opponents, and
Yeah.
someone's going to go through the effort to form it. And so, like, it's not even a question of does it need it, it will happen. You can't stop it.
Yeah. And I feel the same way because even with the pandemic happening and like them saying, okay, well, at one point we couldn't even see each other, we couldn't congregate or anything like that. The fighting game community kept going. We just kind of, you know, our communities kind of congregated in maybe like discords and other types of chats, you know, so it will never stop. Like you said, I agree with you. What you said, it's a competitive game, so people are going to be looking for other people to play, especially if you're serious about it. Like I said, you could be in the middle of nowhere and try to find somebody to play. Because I remember, like another story that I remember telling you guys is like when I was in Arizona, like my friend Jay Rail found a Kunin on Tekken Zaibatsu. So, any type of way that we can find people to play, we're going to find those people. And
yeah,
just the only thing is, you hope that, they're good people or to play with, and hopefully make some long standing relationships that'll test the strength of time.
yeah.
which kind of brings me into the next topic. Now, what makes a good fighting game community?
Expectations.
Expectations?
Yes. Expectations to, be involved, to play, to socialize. When I first started, being a part of the teching community, my whole thing was just, being quiet, not talking to many people. But over time, everyone kind of had. I felt that there was a expectation to, open up and be a little more enthusiastic about it. Like I clearly like the game, but that's me in the game.
Mhm.
The people in the community, whether you feel intimidated by them or not, there is it felt as if there was this, it wasn't said, but it was kind of implied. It's like, okay, like, yeah, it's cool that you're here, but you're going to have to be a little more appear more invested, more than just playing the game.
Yeah.
And I say that because it was one of the interactions I had with Big Majin when I first played him. And it was in Tekken 6. And this was after you kind of like showed me the ropes for a while. And so when I was playing him, I had Elisa, who was a new character to the franchise at the time. And he was playing Lars, I believe. So, and I was getting the upper hand, and the whole time I was too afraid to say, not that you have to do trash talk or anything, but I just had to be a little more animated. I just wasn't saying anything, and over time, Little Macho was, he was making comments like, "Hey man, you really gonna have to, learn how to stop this stuff." He was talking to Big Macho. Because Lisa at the time was new and had all this stupid gimmicky shit, and folks were like, "Man, what is this stupid character? She's throwing her head all over the place and flying around chainsaws or whatever."
Yeah.
And I was getting a few games on him because he wasn't familiar with the character. And when he said that, a part of me was like, "Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. How you gonna stop me? If this was a tournament, I would have won." And he saw my face. I didn't say any of that stuff, but I said it with my facial expression. And he was like, "Oh no, fuck that, dude." And once I figured out this stuff, yeah, you're done. And when he said that, I was like, "Oh damn, that is a possibility." And then I started playing worse because I was intimidated. And then once he realized that, he was like, "Oh yeah, this is a wrap. Yeah, you only got away with that stuff because this character's new." And I'm like, I guess I'm not good at the game. But I never forgot that because I thought it was really, over time once I opened up more, I'm like, you know what? That was really interesting because eventually I got the nickname Robot because I would never make any facial expressions when I would do stuff. And when we had that the great what was it, like the Hastings versus the Wastings.
Yeah. Legendary match.
It was Majin's Minions versus the Wastings.
So little lore dump in Memphis. So we had a place that we would go to play fighting games called Hastings when it was open. Everybody would come there. The community would come there and we would play different games. And what was it, like Marvel and
Street Fighter 4.
Street Fighter 4, Tekken, whatever was happening or popping at that time, we were playing. And I forgot what we were the Hastings, right? Were we the Hastings?
No, they were called the Wastings. It was the Street Fighter guys. And we called them that because they would go up there, but none of them would ever go to tournaments. And but we would show up and play Street Fighter.
Oh yeah, that's right. We weren't a part of that community per se, but we were just there whooping their ass.
Yeah. And of course they were making fun of us, like, "Man, you just Majin's Minions, always coming up here talking, doing what he say because he y'all boss man." then so a bet was made. It was like, well, I bet you. I think it was Fly Mike. He's like, I'm gonna train these wasting guys and Tekken, and they gonna come and beat y'all up because they can
Oh
play a
yeah.
different game if they
Oh
wanted
yeah, yeah, yeah.
to. And that's what they did. I played Street Fighter also. I played Makoto. And I think that was part of the thing that kicked it off because I was beating everybody up with Makoto because she was a character nobody knew how to play or understood. But
Yeah.
I was getting away with choking folks because whatever.
Yeah, you were cold at that game. You were
Yeah.
cold.
So eventually that was like the the bet. He's like,
Bro.
oh, okay, I'm gonna teach these guys Tekken for like a week or two, and then they're gonna come back and play y'all since all y'all play is Tekken. I bet you they can beat you. And it was a team match. It was the Wastings guys, and I think on our team was me, you, Herbert. It's open. Tevin. Hold on one second.
Can I turn your heat down a bit?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's a little warm.
Gotcha. Yeah. Who else was on the team? I want to say was Melvin. I think he was on there too.
I think Melvin. It might have been Melvin.
Yeah, but it was 5 of us. And so what ended up happening, I was the first one to go. And of course, I'm like, the pressure's on because like I'm just nervous in general, even though I know these guys don't know how to play Tekken. But I was more so like, man, what if I just like blow it or something? I'm like, what if I make us look like trash, even though I've been playing this game all this time? And what ended up happening, I took out 4 of the 5 guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think I lost the Fly Mike because he was the last boss. But
Yeah.
even then, it was like real close.
Yeah.
And I remember Cross was there. He was just like, man, this ain't fair. I wanted to play too.
Yeah, I was thinking about how I was gonna scrub them out. I was like, man, I want to scrub some folks out, man. Hey,
They were OTB and the OT.
Bro, that was so funny.
And like that type of interacting is like what really makes communities worthwhile, solid. But I
Yeah.
think we only achieved that because of how like tightly knit we were. Like there wasn't a whole bunch of people. It wasn't some huge event. Like you couldn't feel us all in a Discord server. It was just the weekly roundup guys who showed up to play the game, and every week it was like a new experience where, oh, okay, we're dealing with this character, or oh, who's doing a money match, or hey, let's actually try to plan to go to this tournament, and so on and so forth. And it would be at different places. There was a few times at my apartment. I remember it at another guy's place apartment. I forgot his name, but we played a lot of King of Fighters, Maximum Impact over there.
Yeah.
And I think another place. And then of course there was Hastings. So that type of community engagement, I think, is like one of the things that I'm not sure how possible it is to happen again because of how much people prioritize growth and large numbers and over tolerance and acceptance as far as getting more people in. Because back then I felt like you had to have a genuine interest in Tekken to be considered part of the Tekken group,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Cross?
I don't remember what the question was. What was the question?
So what makes a good fighting game community?
Oh, um, I think the game has to be good first of all. I think if the game is not good, then motivation to play the game is either going to not be there or it's going to be fake. And then if it's fake, it's going to cause discontentment because the people who are there, despite it being fake, are going to be mad when other people talk shit about it. And there's going to be this constant negativity that isn't good. So the game has to be good. So assuming the game is a good game that most people like most of the people, let's say in that community, like let's say if it's a Tekken game, um, let's say the majority of the Tekken players they like it. Let's say
Yeah.
once you got that, then I would say that the majority of the people that play the game need to be there because they want to play the game, not because they're there because other people are there. So essentially, you need people who would show up to play, even if only one other person was there.
Yeah.
because all they want to do is play matches and play the game. Um, like hanging out's cool and all, but like they really just there to play the game. As long as they can get some good matches in, they don't really care. So
Yeah.
you need preferably a good majority. Obviously not going to have 100%, but I would say you need the more the better. Uh, and then um, you need uh, what am I trying to say? You need people who actually I know this kind of sounds like the last point, but you need people who actually you need rivalry,
Yeah.
but you need varying skill levels. Because there needs to be a ladder to climb. There needs to be people who are at the bottom, and there needs to be people who are at the top. And the people in this ladder need to be motivated to change their position or maintain their position or grow, I guess. And the last thing that I would say is really important, but is pretty difficult to deal with,
Hmm.
is that whenever you have people who are like bad actors, you cannot protect them.
Said bad actors.
Yeah,
What do you
like
mean by like bad actors?
bad actors are people who try to manipulate the group to their own means that go outside the game. Like, they're not trying to play Tekken and win at Tekken. They're trying to change the community to suit what, like, they're not there to play Tekken. They're there because they want everybody to start playing Street Fighter, or they're there to bitch and complain,
Yeah.
or they're there to do something that does not involve showing up and playing the game there. They're there to do something else. Um, when that happens, because that's a possibility, and like one person can kind of ruin an entire community, um, because if they're allowed, it's kind of tough to manage because it isn't usually so clear cut a lot of times where it's just like, oh, look, this guy is bad guy. It usually, the way it boils down sometimes is like, thing, things get heated. Someone, maybe there was a close match or something like that, blah, blah, blah. Someone has a little bit of trash talk or say something, and another guy, he takes it very offended. He's very offended. And so these two people, they have beef. That's normal. But once, in my opinion, like this is kind of like a bad sign. Once someone tries to conspire to get the rest of the community to pick a side, like, hey, well, uh, we all need to hate this guy because I'm in the right. And Ron's like, no, that's between y'all two. Y'all don't like each other. Like, don't try to recruit the rest of the community
Yeah.
so that they can pick your side so that you can cast this person out just because you don't like them.
Yeah. And see, we're gonna get more into that too.
So like
Yeah.
there's more to it. Like the this bad actor thing is more complicated than, there's countless examples of what you can do. But essentially it just boils down to someone they're not there to play the game ultimately. And you can tell by just simply their actions. Like, it's like, do they show up and just play the game? Or,
Yeah.
do they like the basic things? Or is it always there's always an excuse for why they can't play the game? Or are they just there to hang out? Well, there's nothing wrong with necessarily just being there to hang out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, why here? There's a lot of places to hang out. Why here? It's kind of like there might be something else behind it. And those are the type of things that I think that I try to like just not like super pay attention to, but I just keep it in the back of my head. It's like, oh, that's strange. This guy shows up all the time for this game, but his skill level has not improved in 5 years. Why
Yeah,
is that? But he
I
says he loves the game so much. That doesn't make
yeah,
any sense. Just by playing the game for 5 years, you should naturally improve by some bit. Unless he doesn't play the game, then why is he saying he likes likes playing this game like this?
yeah,
That's weird. Uh, so sometimes it's just bullshit. They just need someone to hang out with, and that's that, and
yeah,
that's all it is. But sometimes it's something else too.
yeah.
So
Yeah. And like I said, we're gonna get more into that in just a second. Um, but for me, I think a good community is compiled of people who really want to help each other, really want to see each other grow. Um, and kind of like what Cross was saying, different players of different skill levels that can, you know, teach you about certain things. And there's nothing wrong with a little healthy trash talking every now and then.
yeah,
And everybody's just trying to have fun and, like I said, grow. Those are the best communities, because sometimes, you know, even though we're there to kind of kill each other in these fighting games, it's like it's just fun being around each other. Um, Fun just conversating and even just talking about life. You know, and like I said earlier, you know, we all go out. We all go out to get something to eat, get some drinks, tired, and then hey, come right back to the same spot and start playing again. But those were some really really good times, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that you have like your egos and things like that, which brings me into my next topic. So, is there a such thing as a toxic FGC? As we've heard a lot of things here and there about like the FGC and what goes on. I think a couple of us have kind of experienced it ourselves, and this is gonna be like the topic here because I know we got a lot to share on it. So, but yeah, is there a such thing as a toxic FGC?
In my opinion, I think the word toxic implies a different meaning because I think it has two meanings. There's the literal meaning and the new speak meaning. Like back in the day when it was just raw, you know, trash talking, blah blah blah, that would be considered toxic, I guess technically. I would disagree. I think the true toxicity comes in the form of what Cross described earlier as now it's like these veiled attempts on people's reputation outside of
Mhm.
the game, and it has nothing to do with the game itself. Like the game itself it's its own little thing, and people who come to play it, and the only genuine toxic element is people who aren't there to play the game, but only they're there to further their own agenda to either push somebody out or reshape this whole thing into something that it wasn't originally for some reason. And unfortunately, due to whether it's like peer pressure or whatever trends, it eventually catches on with a lot of people and they just kind of get lockstep because it's like, well, I mean, everyone else is doing it and I don't want to appear as the villain or whatever. And slowly over time, because ironically, I talked to my dad about this earlier today about how over the past 10 years, people have just been becoming way too passive
Yeah,
when it comes to taking on or having a opinion about what really isn't controversial. It wasn't controversial 10 years ago, and it shouldn't be now. but because everyone has kind of developed this fear of being honest or genuine, they instead infer that to be, quote unquote, toxic. Like,
Yeah.
for example, I think Ernesto from Button Check, he's covered a few topics, and because he's an FGC content creator, makes a lot of good videos. But one that he talked about that really kind of got me frustrated was about this woman. That's another aspect we can get into later. But this girl was complaining about how I guess the FGC was so mean spirited when it came to trash talk or whatever. And obviously, from where I'm standing, it just sounds like a woman being a woman in a place that's really a boy's den. And of course, I'm thinking, I'm like, why is she here? Like, she fits the description of what I think Cross describes as somebody who's just here because of the social aspect, but has ulterior motives to push her own idea of what this should be in order to make it more accommodating for people like me, people
Yeah.
who don't play the game. And so that's what I think is toxic. But what they would describe as toxic is what I would describe as just regular male behavior. When the boys get together to enjoy themselves playing the game that is competitive and gets them riled up and wants, a little trash talk, whatever. It's a game about beating the shit out of each other. Of course, it's going to be trash talk. Like, oh yeah, dude, your bass is dog shit. I bet you I could whoop his ass with my uh Jan Lee. Or, oh yeah, Cross, you have such a trash Ling Xiao Yu. I'll show you a thing or two about Ling Xiao Yu. And then I
Yeah.
get my ass mixed into oblivion and be like, yeah, whatever. She cheap anyway.
Yeah. Like what's happening on the screen right now. It was mixing me to death.
And it's like, that's fun. Yeah, of
Yeah.
course, inevitably, people are people, and someone's going to eventually get a little butt hurt. I remember Noel Brown getting mad trying to sucker punch somebody in Marvel 3, got his ass beat. But,
Yeah.
the community self corrects for, we know where there's a line. Typically, it's when people want to get physical, and we can handle that without having to be, you know, have this organization built up for them to come back and be like a nanny or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I think. Like, I think toxic as being used by the other is complete bullshit, and they represent everything that shouldn't be in the FGC, and that's clear. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's 2 cents on it.
Okay. What about you, Cross?
Yeah, I guess I also agree that you have to define what toxic means first because I don't even like using the word, to be quite honest. I feel like it's it's what do you call that shit? It's like loaded.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, I would rather say unhealthy. Um, but when people normally say toxic, I feel like what they mean is uh, things that drive people out of the community. But when they say people, it's people that they consider people. Like not everybody are people that they consider people. Like look at infiltration.
Yeah.
He's not considered a person. You know, um, they don't like him, so he's not considered a person. And thing is that there are things about him that you can easily not like him for. So
Yeah.
it's not that you should like him. It's just that in the past, people who weren't liked were still a part of the community. Like
Mm-hmm.
there were a ton of people who weren't liked at all. They were
Yeah.
not
That's true.
people that we were like, "Oh yeah, he's so great, so he gets to be here." It was like,
Yeah.
"No, we think this guy's an idiot," but
Yeah. It's
you
definitely
know,
some annoying people.
yes.
Yeah.
Like, but they were allowed to show up to tournaments. They were allowed to compete. They were allowed to be the bad guy because you didn't stop people from how they felt. The only thing you tried to stop was laws being broken. Like people actually getting hurt. Lines, those type of lines being
Yeah.
crossed. But now, um, I think that toxic has a different meaning. Like toxic back in the day would be that it would be someone showing up and like I'm gonna kill somebody. I'm gonna beat you up just because you beat me in this fighting game, or I'm gonna come here and sell drugs. Like something that would just make the event like or make the area unsafe, like actually unsafe, like physically likely for you to get hurt, or uh physically like likely for it to get shut down because there are drugs being sold, or you know what I
Yeah,
mean, like
yeah,
things like that. That's what was considered toxic. It's like, hey, you're getting everyone in trouble here. But now it's more so like there's a particular group of people who are community leaders, and it they essentially like use their ideology as the default ideology for the community as a whole, no matter what game you play. And if you don't submit to that ideology, you are deemed toxic. And being
mhm,
deemed toxic is essentially like you have like you've been exiled from the community, and there's not much you can do after that. Once you get labeled that, there's not really much else you can do. And so you can't do anything. Like even if you want to go and play games with people, you really can't. Like, because even if you try to play online, you're like everyone's just going to you're not going to get any real serious matches.
mhm.
Like people within the community aren't going to play you, and when they do play you, they're only going to play you just to troll you. Like you're never going to get anything genuine is what I'm trying to say. You're never going to be able to just play fighting games anymore. Yeah, you're going to have your like little fan base, but now they're your little like defender fan base. They're not people who again still just want to play you. It's it'll never be the same. And so I think that that is toxic. I think that
Mm,
that is the very definition of it, because going back to what they would agree with the definition of toxic is you know circumstances that prevent other people, they either drive people out of the community or prevent people from being able to play within the community. But
yeah,
those rules don't apply to people that they don't like. Well, you voted this way, I don't like you. You said this thing on Twitter, I don't like you.
yeah,
You know, you said this thing to this guy in the past, I don't like you. You got accused of this, I don't like you. So that's it. That's enough for you to be banned from from events, and your reputation to be ruined. And the reason why people are afraid to say what they think is the truth, even though they might be wrong, is because being wrong could result in your reputation being destroyed.
yeah, yeah. You
Eh,
are one hundred
No,
percent facts on that one.
let me take that back. Being perceived as wrong, you might be
Mhm.
right,
Yeah,
but it doesn't matter if everyone thinks you're wrong. Not even if everyone thinks you're wrong. If the people who have the ability to control the narrative on within the community think you're wrong, then
yeah.
that's enough. And so
It's
why would anyone play that game of Russian roulette? They would instead just keep their mouth closed and try to play the game within the limits that they can. But but they then also have to play with everyone else that's keeping their mouth closed except for the community leaders. And then the community leaders are restricted by their own rule set that they don't even really agree with a lot of the times, but now they got a lot more to lose than me or you. We don't got shit, right? But the potential that we could have something in the future keeps our mouth shut.
yeah,
Like the potential that maybe I could grow into somebody keeps our mouth shut. But them, their mouths are sewn shut because of now they got something and they can't lose it forever, you know.
mhm, yeah.
Uh
And it's a very unfortunate, man. Like a lot of innocent people have gotten like in that same situation where somebody that's popular or whatever said some things that were untrue, and then everybody believed it. and then that person's reputation was ruined forever. Even if
Yeah.
you come out with the facts, it's like people still doubt you. People
Yeah.
still don't believe you, no matter
Yeah.
what. So it's forever tainted on you, all from like a lie. And it's very unfortunate that happens to some people. I mean, some people, that stuff is true, but
Yeah.
I'm just talking about the people that have gotten lied on.
Yeah.
Those type of situations.
Mhm.
And that's
Terrible.
the
They
thing.
get,
It's just,
and then what's really bad is when that happens, and then actual companies start turning their back. Oh, you can't come to this tournament because
well,
this was
that's
said,
the
or that
thing.
was said. You know.
Well, that's the thing. That's the difference between the past and today. The companies and the community leaders are the same. The community
Mhm.
and the companies are linked. They are linked so tightly that they might as well be considered the same. I mean, because back in the day, they weren't linked. They were pretty separated. They were pretty separated to the point to where you had no clue if the person who was making your game or whatever was even listening to anything that anyone had to say.
Yeah.
Like you weren't sure at all. You were probably thinking that they don't.
Yeah.
They're like, they probably don't listen to anything we have to say ever. But now it's almost guaranteed. It's the opposite. You're like,
Yeah.
well, of course they're listening to what people have to say, like clearly, and like
Yeah.
so. The thing is that the same people who are those community leaders, the same people who are running events, they're friends with the people who are community managers and work for these companies. So
Yeah.
they are literally linked together, even if, like, technically on paper, like, the person who, people who run Evo don't work at Namco, they're friends. So all it takes is for you to be infamous enough for one of these people to not really like you, and everybody else could be in that company could be indifferent. But if they like that, like if you come to me and you say I really don't like Bill, and I'm indifferent about Bill, let's say, but I care about you, and you are making a really big deal about Bill. You say, if Bill shows up, I'm not going to be here. And
Mm.
I'm like, wow, man, is it really that serious? Yes, it's that
Mm.
serious. And you know what? If you're going to allow Bill to come here and you're going to choose me over Bill, then fuck you too. Now,
Mm.
that's the situation that a lot of people get put in. And they're like, well, damn, man, like I don't got things against Bill, but you're my friend. So I'm going to choose my friend over someone I'm indifferent about.
Yeah.
But the person that is on the indifferent side, he's not seeing it that way. He's seeing it as you're fucking me over. But you're not trying to fuck him over. But this is manipulation.
Yeah.
This is the way that this guy over here, he hasn't done technically anything that can be traced down on paper or nothing. I'm the one that's doing all the dirty work for him, and I'm not even trying to do it. But then when Bill, when I get a negative response from Bill that seems like um, overreaction, like it's an overreaction. Now I'm mad at Bill, now, and it confirms, like, oh yeah, you know what, Bill is an asshole. It's like, well, yeah, look at it from Bill's perspective. He's blindsided. He probably doesn't even know that you don't like him that much. He probably thinks like, yeah, you guys aren't really good friends or anything, but he probably thinks you're indifferent, but you hate him. He doesn't even know that
Mhm.
until some
Yeah.
big thing comes out, and then all of a sudden this hits him like on the side of the fucking head, and he feels like everybody betrayed him. When in reality, only like one person probably hates them, and the rest are just friends with that person, and they're just trying to appease them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
and so like,
Follows lockstep.
yeah, and so it's manipulation. And because of things like social media, it's not like back in the past you didn't have manipulators and liars and things like that. People like that have always existed. It's just that now that you have, well, there's a combination of things, but essentially it boils down to it's easier for people to communicate with each other now than it was in the past. And because of that, that makes it easier for manipulators to do what they do as well. It makes them easier to get into positions of these
Authority.
type of positions, authority, yes,
Mhm.
and create an environment that they want it to be at the expense of the people that you know play the game, love the game, whatever it may be.
Yeah, they just want to play the game, and the rest of the shit is like not even a thought in their mind until it's forced upon them.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So now they got on the fly right in that moment, like, oh, well, what do I do? Like, and then
And then
bounce
once they
balls from there.
once they put themselves into a position of power, there's not much you can really do about it because the only thing that would dispel that is if everyone understood that's what it was. If
Yeah.
everyone, like, not everyone, but the majority, if the majority of people understand, hey, no, this is the type of person that you are, then, like Mr. Wizard, for example. I mean, that's a extreme example,
Yeah.
but it took something like that for people to be like, okay, yeah, you're the fuck out of here. Like, that's it. We're not listening to anything else you're saying. But there already had been evidence that he was keeping other games down and promoting other games.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
that's not even like controversial. So it's like, okay, but the thing is that we like Evo, so we're gonna like Mr. Wizard. Okay, well, I like Evo, and it's pretty cool, and you're gonna just like give him the benefit of the doubt on things because that's how human beings are for the most part.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so yeah, um, so yeah, to go back to your question, like, can obviously like any community can be toxic,
Yeah.
because manipulative people can get a hold of positions of influence, and then they can use that to essentially dictate like, what do you call it, the atmosphere of the community to suit them, and honestly at this point the game itself, because the community and the spirit of the community influences the game. I mean, you can see that with
Yeah.
Guilty Gear. I mean, Guilty
Yep.
Gear is a prime example of that. So
100%.
yeah, no, like, definitely it can be toxic for sure.
So for me, it's a it's a thin line, um, because we trash talk all the time. Like sometimes trash talking is like my favorite part of the FGC. That's my favorite part.
Yeah,
Josh throwing me around with Armor King, getting mad, getting salty. You know,
you move tracks everywhere.
tracks everywhere. I remember good old Mick was playing Nick one time in Tekken, I think 6, and we were playing, and he was kicking my ass. I was like, all right, I'm tired of this. I'm just gonna hop kick you to death. And I started hop kicking him and winning. And he looked over to me, he looked to the side, he said, "You just a professional masher, ain't you?" I was like, "Yep." And we both, hey, and what we do, we both looked at each other, laughed, and kept playing, laughing.
Oh
So
god, that's
I
something
think
he was saying too.
sometimes like toxic is in the eye of the beholder, kind of like what you guys were saying. It depends on who's really, who it is and how they kind of take things. Because something that's maybe like toxic to somebody else might not be toxic to me. We just
Yeah,
trash talking and talking shit like we always do, you know.
Yeah,
So it might be, a little bit different, but at the same time, there are toxic things, and I wrote down a couple of things that I was thinking about. So it gets toxic when jealousy gets involved, when selfishness gets involved, um, greed, elitism, and ego. When some players, they just, because they're the best. Hold on, hold on. Nick put us out the house early after I kicked his ass. See, That's the type of stuff, man. Like where it might be toxic to somebody else, but it's funny to us.
Yeah.
But um, but yeah, there are certain players that think that just because they are better players, they kind of look down on other players where they won't give you the time of day. Oh, like if you're not a top player, then I'm not gonna play you, you
Yeah.
know. Or, if like you try to, ask some questions or things like that, they don't have anything to do with you. I get that we're human and maybe they have something to do or whatever, but some people just, they have their ego and their elitism in their heads to where, they just look down on people. Also, there are certain people who are just jealous of the success of other players, to where they try to sabotage you and talk down on you too. Some folks just haters, man. Like straight up.
Yeah.
You doing well and you know, or you're trash talking them too. And it's like, man, I don't like that guy. They kind of take it to heart. Some things aren't meant to be taken to heart, but some people don't have the emotional intelligence to kind of understand. So
Yeah. I mean, I think that like some of those things that you mentioned in that list, um, they're unavoidable because
mm,
it's a competitive nature thing, like ego. I don't like when people use the word ego in a
hmm
purely negative sense because ego is neutral. It's
hmm
negative or positive. It just depends on the situation. So,
yeah,
like for example, like
perspective. Yeah.
yeah, like because um, yeah, I was in a Discord with some people when Street Fighter 6 first came out, and I'm playing the game and I'm not really saying much because I know I'm trash at Street Fighter. Like, but I'm beating this guy because I know he trash at fighting games in general.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, you'll never beat me. Like, but I wasn't saying anything. But like when he was getting mad, and I was like, hey, ain't no reason to yell. And he was like, oh well, you talk like you got such an ego. I was like, if I had an ego, which I probably do, because we all got egos. If we didn't have egos, we wouldn't be able to act. We have to have some ability to know who we are and confidence that we can do it. That's what an ego is. But are you saying I have too big of an ego? Is that what you're saying? Because that's not true. I'm beating you. You're the one who has too big of an ego because you believe that your loss is undeserved.
Yeah.
So that's literally too big of an ego because you have nothing to back up what you're losing. Like it wasn't like you were previously winning and then all of a sudden you just start losing, you know. Yeah, okay, but like you never won. So like how's your ego disinflated? It doesn't make sense. I know I'm shit. I just know I'm better than you.
Yeah.
So this is not a big ego because if I was talking to like if I was playing someone that was good at the game, I wouldn't even be saying what I'm saying right now. Because I'd just be like, well, I'd be losing. I'd be like, well, I'm losing. Yep, it makes sense. Getting beat up. It's like so. There's nothing wrong with having an ego. You need one, but having an accurate view of where it is that's what it is. People
hmm
tend to not have an accurate view of their ego. They don't know. Sometimes it's underinflated. Sometimes it's overinflated. A lot of times it's overinflated. You
Yeah.
know. That's the problem. It's an overinflated ego. That's the problem. Not merely that you have one. So that's just something I wanted to say because I see a lot of people say, "Well, this person has an ego," as if they don't have one.
Yeah.
By merely mentioning that someone else has an ego, you're kind of telling on yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're showing your ego because you're trying to look like he think he big and you're essentially saying he think he big and bad, but he ain't.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're implying that you're big and bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Fair, fair enough. Yep. I I
so
I I got you. I got you. Um, but selfishness. I think I kind of think we touched on this a little bit in one of the last stream we had, where my character is trash. Your character is the best character in the game. It's time to shit on your character.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
finna a Twitter post. I'm finna
yeah,
a YouTube comment. I'm
yeah.
finna contact the developers.
Yeah, you got to be
This
selfish too. I mean,
is
like that's another thing that
yeah.
like it's unavoidable in a fighting game. This is not a team-based game. I'm not trying to
Hmm.
like like yes, like there's always extremes that where you can go too far. Like you can get to a point to where like you're literally not helping anyone within your local community with anything, which is going to eventually backfire on you because like you need opponents in order to grow stronger.
Yeah.
And if those opponents are weak, then you are killing yourself. You're only being the big fish in a small pond. So you want your opponents to get stronger, but you want them to get stronger in a natural way, and you don't want to have to do all the heavy lifting for them. But if they're doing a basic enough, like, well, I'm just going to ask you, like, if they're asking some of the right questions and then they do all the work, that's a good situation. But it is not my job to get you better. It's my job
Yeah.
to get me better. And so like my primary focus is on myself. So again, there's nothing wrong with being selfish. Like not in this context. And
Yeah.
maybe in life, you have a spouse and shit like that. That's completely fucking different. But in the game of playing fighting games and trying to win, of course, I want to beat you and I want you to lose every fucking time. And
Yeah.
preferably, I want you to not have fun while doing it too, so that you can quit.
Yeah. I think I think there's levels to it, man. There's definitely levels to uh, how how invested you are into it. You know, like a lot of us, we play the game, and you know, if our character get nerfed, they get nerfed. If they the best, they the best. You know, we're not gonna get Twitter fingers or X fingers and go online and complain about it. You know,
Yeah, but
I just think that like how can I say? It's just sometimes it's just a bitch ass move to me.
yeah, it's disgraceful, but at the end of the day, who's winning?
Yeah, I get it. I get it. You got to do what you got to do.
Right. Like
I
the thing is
understand that.
that like Herbert, like if we're playing the game and we're playing Tekken and I could spend 6 months really grinding, putting in a ton of work so that maybe we're equal. Or I can get the developers to make you equal. Or worse, make your character so shit that they're unplayable. I could do that.
Hmm.
One is way less work, and it's like a lottery. And if I lose it, I get to like still complain about it. It's not like, oh well, that's that. I mean, yeah, it's a dishonorable and shitty way of doing things. But I mean, who gives a fuck about honor in this day and age? Like seriously, like no one gives a fuck about honor. The only thing that people care about is winning, even if it means winning the meta game of the game and not
Right.
necessarily the game. Like, okay, well, I made it so that you can't show up to tournaments anymore. I win completely. I've
Yeah,
beaten you 100%
that
because you
that
can't go
is
to tournaments.
that's hey, that's like some L and light type shit.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think like people have said that like a lot, right?
Yeah,
Where it's like,
that's like some
like
next level stuff right there.
if infiltration was a scrub, no one would give a fuck. Like, I think
But it's
a lot of people said, Eric said that he was like, if infiltration was a scrub, no one would care.
mm,
So it is because he's good that they
yeah,
put effort into keeping him out. Because if they just said, let's let bygones be bygones or whatever the
yeah,
fuck, that's not true. He got proved this and that. We don't have to like the guy, but he's not a criminal. He would show up and start fucking everybody up, and then they would have to get him the trophies and the millions of dollars, and like that would not make them feel very good that they have to give this guy they don't like all this shit.
Yeah,
They
it's
Yeah.
easy to just unperson him and just get him on when I'm out of here.
Yep,
Permanently.
exactly. Yeah, permanently. They won the meta game. It doesn't matter how good he is at Street Fighter.
Yeah.
They won the meta of all meta.
Yeah.
They control the system, and then
Capcom
that's
doesn't want
that.
him. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, I am playing this match back here, man.
Man, he ran into like 4 hop kicks.
I did, but I did, but I'm still doing some cold stuff.
Yeah, you are. Because like when you sidestepped that Tekken crash, I was like, oh, okay, that was. I remember being there when he was practicing that.
Yeah, man.
Cheap ass characters. I'm gonna pick my character twice. Like, man.
Yeah.
It's like this game could have been so cold if they just didn't do all that whack shit. Like there's so much whack shit in this game that makes it makes you just not frustrated because you're just like you're cheating. You're just cheating. Like, why are you picking 2 Eddie Gordos? This is fucking retarded.
Yeah.
Like, this is just fucking cheating, man.
I love it though. I mean, by the end of the game, I hated it, but I still loved it. But like the whole tag crash and 2 Eddies taking up, they hit you one time and like 75% of your life is gone.
Yeah.
And then
Lee and Violet, Michelle and Julia.
Yeah, and then like you get put in situations where it's like it's damned if you do and damned if you don't. If you don't tag crash, you're gonna die. If you tag crash, you're gonna die.
How would you like to die?
Yeah, how would you like to die?
You lose to this game no matter what. So
yeah,
you want to make it look good or not?
Yeah, but it was still an innovative game. I still had some really good times playing it.
Yeah, I like it more because I remember it fondly because of what Tekken has become. Because I remember we talked about it before, and I was like, yeah, I thought this game was frustrating, but I like it more now because of what's happened the past 7 years. So it's like, yeah, well, oh well.
I'm still traumatized by this game. I don't think
I am too.
I don't think I
am too.
Like, I would rather turn on Tekken 6 than turn this fucking game on. It's this shit is scary. Like, this one of more like this game is just so fucked up, man. That like when I played Tekken 7, it felt like taking the fucking weights off. Like legit. Like I remember when I first started playing vanilla Tekken 7 in arcades, and I was like, whoa. I was like, what the heck? Like, this game is easy. Like, whoa.
Tekken Tag was definitely a really hard game to play. It was really, really hard, especially against people who were good at spacing. And the movement was really good in this game to me.
Yeah, movement was super good. Yeah, it was really good.
Fast and like if you can get out the way
precisely, it was like you remember like the high level matches, people would be moving so safely that like they would be sidestepping in people's face, and then like they would do a down forward 2 and they would block it and punish it. Like they would Kazuya's down forward 2. He would see that, oh, JDCR moved, I'm gonna do down forward 2. Boom. And then JDCR would block that shit. Boom. 1-1-2 flash combo. It was like, what in the fuck? Like he's moving around. He sidestepped and canceled and blocked the Kazuya's down forward 2 and punish. So then they would just not do that.
Yeah.
They would like dash and then delay when they did a fucking jab or something. Like they were just doing nothing. Like sometimes it was like that's how crazy good and safe.
Look at the combo. Good Lord.
No.
I love this game for its innovation though. I think that was the best thing, trying to figure out what your characters can do when you like making up combos and strategies and
yeah,
but I hated how jank this game was. This still had all the Tekken. I feel like this game had the normal amount of Tekken jank that Tekken used to have, and then 7 fixed a lot of that.
Where you get up wrong, that's your ass.
Get up wrong, you fucking sidestep someone and launch them, but somehow you end up going through them into their back, or a side combo just don't fucking work for some reason, or shit
straight up and You stood straight up and they cross punched, floating you.
Yeah, like just like
Mhm.
shit. Or then like you just had completely unfair shit where some characters can just fuck you up on a wall combo real hard, but
Yeah,
other characters, Xiao Yu, couldn't get shit at the fucking wall. It was
yeah.
like, what? This is
It's like
fucking
like
sucks,
it was
man.
like squeezing turnips trying to get damage with some characters.
Yeah, it
Because
was like,
it was hard trying to find synergy for Dragunov and Jin in this game. It's really hard, but because nobody was playing. There's another thing too. Certain certain teams, like
They're-
nobody was playing. It's like
yeah,
so you had to come up with the tech for your team sometimes because you know who else are you going to watch but yourself? It's like it's
right.
on you.
Yeah, that's so true. It wasn't like finding tech for this game, like you just said, was really difficult because it wasn't as simple as let me just watch someone who plays Xiao Yu, or you had to
Hmm.
find who is playing. That I never found someone that was playing like the team that I was playing.
Hmm.
I
Me
was like,
either.
fuck, like, how am I supposed to understand how to like? I never. That was one of the problems I was just having in general. I couldn't find a second because I was like, I want to play Xiaoyu and Asuka, but I was like, man, they don't really go well together. And then I was like, I think like near the end, I started playing Xiaoyu and Zafina, and I was like, okay, they kind of go well together because some of their combos like work well together. But even then, I was like, man. Then you had these what I call catch-up characters where they go with everybody, man.
Oh yeah.
Like
Um.
fucking
It Lars, man.
Lars,
Yeah,
fucking
Lars.
Lars, Bob, dude,
Hmm.
Bruce, um, like they were just characters where they just went with everybody, man. It
You
didn't
see
matter
that?
who you picked.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that shit. That's what I'm saying, man. This game is fucking bullshit. Like Tekken has this like jank shit in it where like weird, unpredictable shit happens and there's just nothing you can fucking do about it. You just like, okay, well that happened and I just gotta adjust. Boom boom. Like why didn't that hit?
Yeah.
Coffee
That's
table
it.
right there.
Like
You're
it's
right, Josh. The coffee table.
exactly. It's like I hate shit like that because that'll be the shit that'll get you fucking killed. You'll be
Yeah.
like,
So you should have got hit on the rail. You hit it with the coffee table. Come on, man.
Yeah.
You should have known that if you labbed properly.
So, so we talked about what makes a good community, and we talked about what could possibly make a toxic community. Now, do we need like leaders to regulate what's good and what's bad when it comes to community?
Nope, because that's exactly what that girl was talking about.
that
Shoot.
that's what they're doing now. That's exactly what they're doing.
Hmm.
That's what that is. Like,
Yeah.
no, I don't think you need leaders. I think you just need like one or two things. Either the current ideology that they go under needs to be completely thrown out and known as illegitimate, like how the Soviet Union fell back in the day, and it was just like, oh well, they're complete failures, and if you even bring this shit up, it's laughable. Like it needs to be on that level, or there needs to be complete chaos again. That's it. That's it. That's the only. Those are the only two options because um, complete chaos, and what I mean by that, just more so a breakup where there isn't a one FGC. The FGC, like there isn't just a FGC. There's individual communities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by chaos because there wasn't any. There were just small local communities. You know.
Ooh, look at that boy.
I'm about to say, like, God damn, that's super young Herbert.
It was that
What's
like
that? Fucking
27?
I mean that's just regular excerpt.
It says 2016.
Dang.
Dang. So that's not Revelator. Is that Revelator 1?
I think that's extra, right?
I mean,
It was
yeah, but
Rev
is that
2.
Rev 1 or is that's definitely not Rev 2 because
Um,
it's not green.
That's extra.
Yeah, but I'm saying is that just that's regular excerpt or is that Rev 1?
I don't know. I don't know.
thought it was just excerpt and then Rev 2.
That is that is Xrd, dude.
Yeah.
That's regular Xrd.
Yeah, I think it might be Xrd.
Wow, that's crazy.
Look at this guy. Look like afro, all young and
Yeah, man. Young, no gray, no gray in the beard.
Yeah,
man.
that's crazy. How much
But
time passed? Well,
yeah.
I guess it has been like almost 10 years.
Yeah. Oof.
So you don't think there's any leaders that's needed in the community?
No, it's not that. It's just that, like, you know, yeah, you can have leaders. Problem is that when you have a position that's like, oh, look, we're going to create a leadership position, and that leadership position is going to dictate what people believe in and stuff like that. We already have that, and that
Yeah.
doesn't work because it attracts people who want to use. They're not in that position to like do what's right or any of that. They're attracted to it because of the power
Yeah.
that it possesses. And so, like, there is no way to not have it be like that because the position itself attracts that. And
Yeah.
so, if you have a leader, the leader has to come about in a way that's what I call like natural power. Natural power, in my mind, uh, is something that's gained from the inherent thing that it has. Like, for example, like if you get better at programming and you're competent, you're very good at it. That is the natural power, the influence that you have is over your ability to be able to program some like make create a program. That is your natural power over that thing. So if you create something using that, then no one can take that from you because
Yeah.
that is your competence that granted you that power. That wasn't the mandate of the community or a title. It was your competence that granted you that. This form of power is almost always okay because the person who had to work to gain it understands how it can be misused,
Yeah.
and they're not willing to do that because they understand that, like, they kind of like get a well-rounded picture. Like, wow, like this is kind of fucked up. But if you give someone power where they didn't have to necessarily create it themselves, it was just given to them through a title or a position or something like that, or their primary goal was to gain the power and not necessarily the competence that has the power wrapped inside of it, then they don't get a full idea of the consequences of it. It's kind of like they're naive to it. And so they begin to try and shape things the way they immediately want to use the power and shape things the way that they think it should be. And through that, they actually end up fucking up way more because it's so much easier to fuck shit up on things that are actually mostly good than to make it slightly better,
Hmm.
And many people are not willing to maintain what's good. They think that they can actually improve on what's good without fucking the rest up. There's very few people who gain power and say, you know what, I'm just going to use the power I got to maintain what we got and make sure that this remains good. They can't do that. They always try to turn 98% to 99%. And they think that what's the problem with doing that? They don't have this idea in their mind that there's a probability that you could turn 98% into 67%. And how that's way more likely to happen. But they don't care. They're not thinking about it like that because this is power that they possess. They got it. They're excited to use it and they can't. No one can really stop them. And so they're going to use it. And it's just that simple. It's like so like that's why I'm not really a idea of we need community leaders that blah 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 because it's like it's not going to work out the way you think it is. You're going to say, well, I'll get this guy in charge and I really trust him and like him and blah blah blah. Okay, sure. Maybe he is an exemplar of everything that you believe is right. But a leader, in my mind, is only as strong as the people who want to follow him. And
Yeah.
if you have other people who become, let's say, leaders on their own, and they're able to persuade those people to not listen to you, you don't have any power really. And so it really boils down to not one person trying to tell everybody else what to do. It boils down to everybody else gaining an understanding about what is right.
Yeah.
So it ain't about having a leader that tells everyone. It's about everybody else understanding what's right and wrong. And in order to get a context of what's right and wrong, everyone has to have a similar goal. And this goes back to what Josh is talking about, where he's like, well, back in the day, everybody here, they just wanted to play Tekken. Everybody, or one, whatever game it may be, like
Yeah.
everybody inadvertently, without trying, had a similar goal.
Yeah.
They all just wanted to be better at this game and go to a tournament maybe and do really, really well. Maybe get a little bit of notoriety because of it. Not necessarily like, I mean, yeah, like obviously we got money from that. That'd be great too. But really what we wanted was to be number one. It was
Yeah.
like, I want to be the guy that wins the tournament. I want to be the guy that's known as one of the best gin players ever. Like,
Yeah.
like I want to be there. Like, I want that. And so it was like even though we never communicated to one another, even though we
Yeah.
never sat down and said, this is the plan, it's like we all had the same goal. And that's why there was peace, because we all inadvertently had the same views of what's right and what's wrong.
Yeah.
But when the motivations change, but we assume that their motivations are the same as ours, that's when you get a mismatch. Look at this cheap shit, Lee and Violet, dude. So fucking
Yeah.
stupid, dude. But yeah, like when you have a mismatch of values, because there's a mismatch of goals, and we're assuming that the other person has our goals in mind. And so we're continually confused as to why they do what they do. But if you understand what they're trying to achieve, then it's not confusing anymore, because you're like, oh, okay, well, that's what they value. They don't value what I value, you know? And so, yeah, it just boils down to the community. What's your community? What
Yeah.
do they actually value? Because they get what they want. Um, and so I think the way the community is right now is a result of what the community puts up with. And
Yeah.
so
That's true.
people like us, or people like me or whatever, right? It's kind of like I'm a minority, and I think the people like us who like, well, we just here, we want to play fighting games and get good, and we care about that. And not like, I guess that's unfair. It's not that like I only care about competitive fighting games, but I do care about competitive fighting games. And for the people who are just around just for the social aspect of it, the drama and all of that stuff, it's like, well, they have different goals. They don't care about getting better, or legacy knowledge, or any of that type of stuff, gameplay mechanics, or none of that. Like, they just like it because it's new, or they just like it because a bunch of people are playing it, or whatever. So like their
Yeah.
goals are different,
Yep.
and so their community is fine for them.
Yeah.
It's just not fine for us. So like, you know,
All right. What about you, Josh? Do we need leaders in the community?
Absolutely not. Like I said, that button check video, what that girl was complaining about, that was her, solution. She pretty much wanted to erect a board of nannies, to say it like, to kind of paraphrase, because that's ultimately what she was aiming for. She wanted there to be like some board made up of people who get the say in what is allowed, what's okay, what's not okay, and how to deal with them. Like, we need certain ways to like punish them, or blah blah blah. It was
Yeah.
just a bunch of gay woman bullshit.
I remember
And
seeing that.
yeah, and it frustrated me because, like, I don't have a problem with women who play video games, but a problem is that a lot of these people who are here that aren't playing video games are women. It's like, again, the social aspect. I talked about it a lot with Cross a while back, and it's like they they try to make it really. It's really hard to break this down to regular people because I'm just gonna come off sounding like, oh yeah, you don't want women to blah blah yada yada yada,
Yeah, I
and
literally had someone say that to me. Like I explained it to them all, and it's like, so, they're like, so the problem's just with the women, huh? And I'm like, no. I literally said the opposite. The problem's with men who can't control their emotional state when a woman gets involved in the scene, and
yeah,
that affects everything. Like it, she could do nothing. She could just show up, play the game, be a decent person, and go home. Like she could
yeah,
literally do nothing, and her presence affects well, a woman's presence affects the way men think. Like we don't have to like pretend like that's not true. Like most men are straight, and if it's a particularly attractive woman, and we're talking about the FGC here, so she doesn't have to be that attractive, but like if she is fairly attractive, by which I just mean normal woman, she's going to affect a majority of the men in the group because the majority of men are straight and they probably aren't married. And
yeah,
even if they are married, I mean, there are some these just that don't save you from shit. Like some
yeah.
guys are married and shit still is
Fuck
fucking
that
retarded.
happens.
So it's
And I
like
think yeah,
that's the entire point. It's not a thing, at least for me. I'm
mm,
not necessarily saying like, hey, so we need to just kick all women out and stuff like that. That's retarded. Uh, you can't do that. Like it's impossible to do that anyway.
mm,
That's not my point. My point is that men need to be able to come to grips with the idea that, well, every once in a blue moon, a woman is going to show up, and I just need to like understand that there might be a part of me that might be like, damn, I feel a particular way. There's something that's happening right now, but you got to do your best to realize that like you could end up doing something really stupid that you would not do if that was a guy because you wouldn't feel that way. You would just want to beat him in this game. So act like that girl is a guy. That's the best way I can. That's the shortest way I can fucking put
Yeah,
it. Just treat
yeah,
that girl like a guy, even if she doesn't like it. Even if she's like, "Oh, you're being cold" or whatever. I feel like men are treating me cold. Just don't even. Just shut up. Like just play her in the game. Move on. But if you
yeah,
want to take that risk and be like, well, no, I'm gonna treat her like a girl and I'm going to, do all that, then you'll incur all the risks that go along with it. And that's that. That's on you.
damned if you
But
yeah,
do, damned if you don't.
the
yeah.
thing is that like we cannot pretend and act like that fighting games aren't a male dominated group and
Mhm.
that by introducing a woman into that group, it doesn't immediately disrupt the dynamic of it. By
Yeah,
her not doing anything, she could be the nicest person there. Hell, she could be neutral because let's not say she's nice because being nice could be attractive. Let's just say she's neutral. She's just neutral. She just shows up with pants and a shirt on and plays the game. That will still be enough. Like I've seen it in my local community where
yeah,
that
Yeah,
exact thing happened. It's like
yeah,
everybody comes to white night for this one girl, and this guy it's like, well, I just thought she was attractive. Well, don't you know that she is engaged? It's like, how the fuck would he know that? He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. He's just like, wow, cute girl. And then what you guys all know that because she's been in the community for a while. So you have that type of, well, we told him and this, that, and the other. Look at how you're coming at him. Look at how you're coming at him.
yeah.
Yeah, and you're ready to pitchforks and torches ready to remove him from the entire scene, and he had
Right back
one
to what we
person
said.
to stand up for him like, hey, you know just relax, guys,
yeah,
like just
And
just
it's
relax, like he hasn't actually done anything yet. Like he just
yeah,
expressed interest in the
yeah,
girl, and it's like but you see the girl didn't do anything. Like the you know what I'm saying? Like in what I'm saying, the girl didn't do anything. It's all the guys that did something. It's
yeah,
like that's what I'm talking about. But when you explain this shit, it's like people. don't listen to what you just said, and they just like, well, you just hate women. It's like, no,
Yeah.
no, I'm not saying that. It's like, you know, like, so when people are talking about like women in like male hobbies or whatever, male dominated hobbies, and the disruption that it causes, like, if we were just honest about that, then we'd be able to actually like all talk about it, and then we would come to some mental understanding, and then we can move forward. I think that then things would be okay. Because like it isn't like you have women that show up in other like things, and it's kind of like okay, sometimes it's like whatever. It just depends on how they handle it. But I feel like the way that the FGC has handled it can be immature. I think
Yeah.
they swing towards extremes because like they can't it's almost like they don't want to admit that a woman can affect their mental state by just existing around them.
Yeah.
Like they don't want to admit that, like that's some weakness or something. It's like, no, you're a normal functioning guy. Like if there's a girl around and you find her reasonably attractive, your mental state changes. Because if I replaced her with a dude, your mind would be in a different place. Like you'd be thinking differently. Like the way you would be acting, even if you don't notice it, everyone else does. If I'm just paying attention and watching you, I can tell. I'm like, okay, look at the way he's talking. He talks differently. The way he even plays is differently. You know,
Yeah.
it. She may not even notice this. You know, but you have to understand, like, if you don't notice it, then you're like, you, you're a danger
Yeah.
because it's like you're in a trance and you don't even know it. And I feel like guys don't want to admit that shit. They don't want to admit that they can be put into that or that like that happens. They're like, no, I don't see gender at all. Like men and women are all the same and blah blah blah.
And I just lie.
It's like, bro, like
Yeah.
I know you're attracted to women, man, and I like well, those guys are just weak guys. I would never be like that. Okay, maybe not you then, but you
So
have to understand, like people are like that. Like you
yeah,
know, they,
I um I think that we need leaders, but kind of on the lines that what you were saying, we need leaders that uh, aren't so easily corrupted, that can mentally make the right decisions for the community as a whole. I look at TOs as community leaders putting together events, um, making spaces for us all to come together and compete or play or whatever. I look at those people as community leaders. Um, but at the same time, when the community leaders get together and they try to make the stuff like this code of conduct thing, where, in my opinion, it's not needed because we had the law. It's like you don't need a code of conduct to explain to me what the law is.
well, yeah, but
If you're doing some shit that breaks the law, of course you need to go to jail or be prosecuted in court or whatever.
right.
But at the same time, there are people kind of like on the lines of what we're talking about. They'll take this stuff and they'll twist it to ruin somebody's reputation. And when it comes to stuff like this, it's like there's a very, very fine line between, okay, is this the right thing to do? Or are we using this to our advantage to kind of tear down somebody? And looking at this, I don't know if you guys remember this, but this was the code of conduct that they wrote a couple of years back. It says January 14th, 2021. And basically, this is supposed to be the guidelines that all tournaments are supposed to follow. And a group of people got together and said, okay, well, we're going to make this the guidelines for everything. And some of the wording I don't like in it, but it's basically explaining, okay, a lot of things that the law already says that you can't do.
Yeah, but the thing is they're going to spin it towards their their ideology, what they believe is right and wrong.
Exactly. And
I
you
mean,
can
but
go ahead.
that's natural. Like that's what people in that position are going to do. That's why I'm saying like it's inevitable that that's the case. So there has to be certain ideologies that are like publicly laughed out, where where it won't be adopted. But at this moment, that's not the case. And so I bet that tournaments follow this. They just don't say it.
Yeah, they do. I agree 100%. And you can tell that this whole thing was made up by
A
trying to
lawyer,
choose my huh?
a lawyer.
Well, I wasn't gonna say lawyer. I'm trying to choose my words carefully.
Well,
But you can
Ultra
tell.
David is a lawyer, right?
I don't know. I know he's on here though. That's
Yeah,
one of
he
the
is.
signatures
He is, and
right here.
I believe he's a lawyer.
It says recommendations and legal communication.
Yes. Yep. See?
But I was gonna say I feel like this was made up by um like I said, I'm trying to choose my words carefully, but I was gonna say a bunch of weirdos and feminists,
I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, he's one of those too. But you
you
know,
know.
I think this
those
was the thing I
kind
was
of
talking about. That
yeah, no, this is the thing you're talking about.
yeah,
But I mean, but yeah, like that's why he's on there, and he is one of those types, and yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's a legal document.
Yeah.
That's why it's like it's that that's why it's formatted the way it is, and yeah, but it's not like you're not gonna get sued over this or anything like that. But the way that it's formatted gives it authority. Just
Yeah.
when you look at it, you say, "Oh, this is a professional typed up like thing," because it is. Um, but that doesn't necessarily make the rules something that the people agree to abide by. But they don't care about that.
Yeah. It's like there's no need for this. Like I said, the law is the law. We have the law. Of course we know it's like of course we know don't harass people, don't hurt people, you know, don't physically abuse people. We already know these things. These things are in the law.
Yeah, but the
And
thing
it,
is,
and it's like this it feels like this is like I said, it was wrote up by like a feminist.
no, it is like, but
No, in the first line, it's like predatory behavior and emotional uh, abuse and verbal and physical abuse. It's like to make a safer, more inclusive FGC.
yeah,
yeah.
AKA let the people we want in and keep out the people that we don't like.
Exactly, Cross. And that's the huge thing about this. It's like I said, there's like a line where people can use this to their advantage.
Yeah, of
You
course.
just hit the exact nail with the hammer on that.
That's why I say FGC is dead because this is what it is now. FGC, fake gay commies.
Well, this is the thing. It's like if the majority of the people disagreed with this openly, where they thought all of this is laughable, this wouldn't matter. They could write a million of these. They could plaster it everywhere. It wouldn't matter because no one would follow it. Because people tend to follow the mandate of the majority of what people think. But if you could flip that around to where you can dictate what the majority of people think, then like you're always winning, right?
Yeah,
But if people flip that around and say, wait a minute, like you hold tournaments for us, like you make these games for us, like you do this stuff for us, like no, I'm not doing that. It's like now one person can't speak for the entire crowd, of course, but he can speak for himself. And people
yeah,
underestimate the power of the individual of one person. They think, well, what can I do? And it's like, well, you can do what's in your best interest. And by doing so, what ends up happening is that you forget all about this thing that was frustrating you and you were constantly compromising with and all of that. You kind of forget about it. And if you find something that you truly enjoy, something you really and truly like, because now you don't have to censor yourself, you don't have to constantly walk on eggshells. You're just living a life that is like natural to you and that you like. And you've kind of forgotten about this thing over here. But the thing is that the people who were still attached to you in that prior life, they are used to the routine of you showing up all the time. They're used to you being there, and their image of you is that. So when they see that you're not there anymore, they wonder, where is Cross? Why hasn't he been showing up to things before? What is he doing now? And a few
Hmm.
of them reach out to you, and a few of them say, what's going on? I'm confused. And like, where are you? Like, what's going on? Blah, blah, blah. And we just tell them the truth. Like, "Oh, I've just been doing this, blah, 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 blah." They start to second guess themselves. They start to say, you know what? That don't sound like a bad idea. Maybe I'll do that. That's how you convince people. You convince people
Hmm.
through your own actual actions, not necessarily through argument or through trying to convince them with some like persuasive essay, video essay,
Yeah.
or a boycott, or any of these things. Like these things are effective when everybody else already agrees, and we're just showing each other that we also agree. But what really moves people is when they see someone actually do an action towards another direction. When someone moves with their feet, I'm getting the fuck out of here and I am over here now. I have moved from California to Texas. They say, wow, what the fuck? That takes effort. Well, is it really that bad that he picked up everything he fucking owned? Hell, sold half of the shit he owned and moved to an entirely different fucking state over here? Is it really that bad? But if you just sit there and talk about how bad it is, but you're still there, it's kind of like no one gives a fuck. It's like, okay, whatever. Like, they're not convinced. But it's like once you move, then you have an opportunity to convince people because they at least think you're convinced of that. They're like, okay, well, like he really do it. And some will just say, whatever, he's full of shit. I don't care. But like now you have a chance to actually convince people. And if you don't, like worst case scenario, you don't convince anybody and everything remains the same, your life has improved.
Mm.
Like your individual life has gotten better. And so this is what people don't realize when like they say, "Well, I gotta do this thing. I know this game is shit and it's turning into this and blah blah blah, but I gotta play it." It's like you're fucking yourself over. There was a guy that existed before you joined the Tekken community. Like, like I played in the Tekken community here for a long time. You weren't here for Tekken 6, Tag 2, or you got here at the end of Tekken 7. So who were you before you came here? You don't got to play
Yeah.
Tekken 8. Who were you who was the guy that was the guy before you came here and was playing Tekken 7? Who was that guy? Maybe you want to return back to him. He might be a funner, you might be a happier person if you were him again. Maybe this was cool for a while and now it's not so cool no more. You maybe want to like I remember I was playing Dead or Alive one time, like Dead or Alive 6, this like small local tournament here. And one of the guys, I'd never seen him before in my entire life. Ever. Never seen him. And this was before MK1 came out, but it was coming out and he joined the tournament and he's like, hey man, he's like super excited. He's like, hey man, how's it going? I'm like, hey, what's up, man? This is your first time here? He's like, nah, I come up here whenever they have MK tournaments, but they don't have MK tournaments a lot. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cool, man. He was like, man, like I love DOA. I heard about what they did. It sucks because MK is in like the exact same situation, but no one even talks about it, and it's just there's nothing I can do because I gotta play MK and it sucks and everything sucks about it. And my game just sucks and it keeps getting worse and it sucks. And at least I can just play a little bit of DOA. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, damn, you, you could just like not. Like you could just not play Mortal Kombat. You don't have to, dude. Like like he was really getting into it with me about how Mortal Kombat I didn't bring up Mortal Kombat. I'm thinking about DOA over here. And he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I'm a Mortal Kombat player. I hate Mortal Kombat 11. I can't believe they did this, blah, blah, blah. The system mechanics suck, this, that, and the other. And then this, and then they won't ever give us anything we want in this, blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. And MK1, I mean, it kind of look cool with this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I'm like sitting there like absorbing all of this fucking rant. And I'm thinking to myself, like, fuck, man, this guy, I feel sorry for him, dude. I just feel for him because I'm just
Yeah,
like, man, he's in the vortex. He hasn't realized yet that he could just like get out and just play something else. And he's trying to too. Like he's trying to play DOA, but he's still in that like, like I found me another girl, but he's still thinking about the prior one, you
yeah,
know? And it's like you haven't gotten over it yet, man. Like you gotta ooh, these games can put a number on you, can't they? When they
yeah,
so good. That's the thing about gaming in general. When gaming is good, it's so good.
yeah.
Ain't it? It's so good. It's like, oh man, that's the one thing our generation, boomers, they'll never understand. They just don't get how good a good video game is, man.
Mm,
Like, when a video game is good, it's motherfucking good, dude. But when it sucks, it's like because that past experience is so good, it's like we can't accept it. And we get
yeah,
so attached. And it's very difficult for us to let it go, even when we have let it go.
yeah,
Like we're still attached to it. And that's how motherfucking good a good video game is. That you still attached to that motherfucker. And no matter if you want to be detached. So, you know, uh
yeah.
so yeah, but I got sidetracked, but
It's all good. It's all good. Um, but me, I'm looking at this roster here, and I'm looking at their backgrounds and committees and status or whatever, and I'm seeing a trend or a pattern of like who these people are.
East Coast
Uh,
and West Coast people. Everybody's
well,
East Coast or West Coast.
I don't know where they're from exactly,
Well, it
but
says right there.
well, yeah, I didn't see it until you just said something. But
Yeah.
it just got me thinking that so if these are the leaders of the community, right? It it feels like or it looks like they don't like the way the community interacts with each other. Like I was saying earlier, like what's toxic to me or what's toxic to them might not be toxic to me. And it seems like this committee was put together to kind of tailor the FGC into what they want it to be. It's
What they
like,
believe it should be.
and I
Yeah.
see a lot of LGBT. Um,
The gays.
yeah, there's a lot of LGBT, and I can tell that a group like this has been working their magic on the FGC for years because it
Not just
seems like,
FGC.
yeah, on a lot of things, but it seems like that whenever I go to a tournament now, it feels like it's made up of these type of people.
Yeah.
Like mostly like the old school players and things. It's almost like they tried to push them out.
Not
They had
tried. Definitely did.
to try
They
to push,
have.
yeah, push them out or ruin their reputation with all of these rules and regulations that, you know, if you say the wrong thing or you say the wrong pronoun or you say the wrong this, then you get ostracized. And then it's like you got so many rules and codes of conduct that you just have to adhere to, and it's almost impossible sometimes to kind of even know what all
Well,
of this is. It's like
yeah.
when we go to tournaments, we don't read this. We just
Well, of
go there
course,
to play the game.
it's not meant for you to read.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you 100%. We don't read this. And then if you break one of the rules, all of a sudden you the bad guy now.
Well,
And
it
you
ain't
just
even about if you break one of the rules. It's about if you do something that they don't like, because that's very different.
yeah.
They will
Well,
interpret the rules. The rules are just there to give them a reason on paper to get people that they don't like. But other people will break these rules and it'll be just fine
exactly.
because it's
Or
not about
or
them.
they try to cover it up.
Well, I mean, like it's naturally going to be covered up because how many things can happen at an event that you just are unaware of because there's too many
Yeah.
people there. It ain't like you got a camera up everyone's asshole and you know what everyone's doing. Um, so like doesn't matter, right? But all it takes is one person with credibility, with people to back them up to tell a story about somebody else.
Yeah.
It doesn't need
It-
to have happened or not have happened. What proof do you
yeah.
have? All you need is an allegation
Yeah. And it's
and people who like you and believe you. It's like,
yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah. That's why I feel so bad about people who have been falsely accused of things they didn't do. And then, like we were saying earlier, once they get accused, everybody they have this thing where like, okay, well, you're guilty, without any proof or documents to prove your case. And
yeah.
then when you do prove your case, it's like it doesn't matter. The damage has been done.
Yeah. Yeah, legally see there's something for that. It's like if I ruin your reputation and then I cause you damages, you could actually sue me for the damages that were you could attempt to take me to court, let me say,
Yeah. Is it like
for the damage.
defamation of character or something like
Yeah,
that?
it's
Is that
like
what it
it's
is?
defamation.
Yeah.
And because like if I defame you, but let's just say like I defamed you today and you couldn't sue me today because there is no damages. Like you couldn't prove that like what I said, you could probably prove it's untrue, but the truth of the statement is not the it's like an important factor, but that's not necessarily the end all be all.
Yeah.
It's the damage that it does to the person. It could be true or false, but if it did damage to the person, obviously if it's false, it weighs more on the person who you know levied the accusation. Um, but if it's false, then uh, obviously like I would probably have to pay more damages. If it's true, then it's like how true? Is it embellished? Like is it true, but does it deserve, let's say like I say, uh, H3 the game called me a bitch. Okay, that's true. And maybe like, that's not such a nice thing. But do you deserve to lose your job over that? Like, like that's the thing. Like, okay, it could be true, but but the lynch mob that came afterwards that I, you know, conjured up
Yeah.
to make you lose not only this job but every other job afterwards, was that like was that appropriate? And you could easily make the argument like no it wasn't, and I'm sue for damages. But the thing is that who in the fuck can do a lawsuit? Most people can't. Like, so when their career or when their reputation, not career, when their reputation is defamed like that, that's why most people are afraid to say anything because they know that like I don't want to get into to fight a social battle with these people. They're powerful.
Hmm.
Like they are. If you're just an average fucking person and you have things like a kid and a job and a life, it's like if it's any way connected to the internet, that's pretty bad for you. And even if it's not, it's like depending on where you work, because people aren't automatons. What if you work with a bunch of people who are highly sensitive to that type of stuff? Someone on the internet calling you racist. What if the people at your job really hate racism to the degree of like really they call any and everything like racist? And so now you being called racist, they just immediately fire you because they're like, well, I don't even want to deal with someone that where there's smoke, there's fire type of thing. Like, you just lost your
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
That people are like that. Oh, the president said this thing, so now I'm gonna do this thing. Like, what the fuck? You're my boss, dude. You're just gonna make a snap decision like that because the president says some shit. Yep. Okay. People are not automatons, they're people. And so
Yeah.
it's like there's consequences, uh, and these people take advantage of that because they're in
Yeah.
a position where it's very difficult for you to do the same to them. It's very
100%.
difficult. Um, you know,
100%.
so that's
Uh,
why.
but yeah, man, this is such a tough, touchy subject. Uh, and but with that said, what do you think the fighting game community can improve on?
Really dying and going away forever. Start over.
I don't think that there's any. I'm kind of with Josh. I don't think that there's anything that the FGC can do at this point. It's a societal, global problem that has to be
Mm,
solved at a global level
mm,
because it's an ideology issue. Like the world has been like it's kind of like the problem with like, well, it actually it mirrors that type of problem, but it's kind of like how like the communist revolution, like socialist revolution problem during the like 50s and 60s, where it
mhm.
was just like a growing ideology that was infecting the mind of a lot of people, and they weren't seeing any, like they weren't seeing the proof of these countries that adopted these ideas falling to shit. And then people would come from those countries, escape them, and be like, hey, look, like these are all lies. But then they would just be shut up, sometimes killed. And so i- the fall of the Soviet Union destroyed a huge portion of that ideology because people around the world saw, holy shit, that shit doesn't work. Okay. But in the social aspect of it, it wasn't destroyed. Only in the economic aspect of it, people were like, oh yeah, it's kind of whack. But in the social aspect of it, it was ignored. And so like that's what kind of is going on, and it destroys everything eventually. But it's just like the Soviet Union. It takes forever. The Soviet Union didn't die in a day. It was slow, like what do you call it? Like rotting away. It was slow. It took 50 fucking years or something like that. Like it took a very long time. And unfortunately, that's the path that's gonna have to happen because people all we all know what the truth is. We all know what it is. People don't need to be educated on anything anymore. How many more videos do you need to be seen on DI and all this stuff? Everyone knows the record. That's not the problem. It's whether or not people are willing to 100% throw that out and say, yeah, no, that's just ridiculous. And I'm not even listening to you anymore on a mass scale. We're not
Yeah.
there. We're not at that point yet. We're now barely at the point where people are feeling comfortable saying,
Yeah.
"Isn't
And
that DEI stuff? That isn't that kind of bad?" Like,
yeah. And
they weren't
we
even they didn't have enough courage to even say that, you know,
yeah,
5 years ago.
we've just with the switch of power in America, we've
Yeah,
definitely seen people
a
are
lot
coming out,
more. Yeah,
especially with Donald Trump coming out and saying there's only two genders.
yeah,
And that is
yeah.
that's
I mean,
crazy.
yeah, I mean, like that's definitely like giving people a lot more, let's say, like courage to say what's on their mind and stuff. But I think that it can't just be because the president is the president. Like, oh well, Donald Trump's the president now, so now I get to say that because then the opposite will happen.
Yeah.
Whenever he's not the president. which he will not be the president in 4 years, like then what's gonna happen? It's a
Uh,
shitty strat. It's like, no, there needs to be an actual fundamental understanding that that way of thinking only ruins things. It can't create anything new. It can only adopt things that are already created, because that's how all ideologies work. Like it's not even just this one. It's just effective. It's far more effective than Christianity or Judaism or Islam, like Islam or the Watchtower or any of this other shit. It's like it's far more effective. But it's the same thing. It has to take things and kind of like control it so that it can subtly like turn it into something that can promote its ideology. That's
Yeah.
all it is. And the people are like the people who do it, they're like the best way I can put it is like they're the Jehovah's Witnesses. Like I think I've explained this idea to you before, but it's like when a Jehovah's Witness comes to your door and they say, "My name's Tom," you immediately even forget that his name is Tom. You don't even call in your mind. He might as well not even have said his name was Tom. He might as well say, "Hello, my name is Jehovah's Witness,"
Yeah.
because like that is the same. It's the same thing. Okay, well, you're just a Jehovah's Witness. Like you're not Tom, because you submitted Tom to the Jehovah's Witness when you became one. So I don't even know who the fuck you are, but I do know that I'm speaking to a Jehovah's Witness right now. I'm not speaking to Tom, you
Yeah.
know. And it doesn't matter if they say Sally, Billy, it doesn't matter. And it's the same thing with this group. It's the same thing. It's like, so it's like, okay, you're not fucking uh, uh, Tim or Samantha. You're one of those guys. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter what race, doesn't matter what sex, doesn't matter who you fuck. None of that is, because I've seen on all that's the one thing. It doesn't matter. They come in all shapes and fucking sizes. It ain't
Yeah.
like, oh well, it's only the black women that say that or some shit. No, it's white guys, black guys, white women, all sorts of shit. Like the only ones I've seen that's probably the most resistant is probably like Hispanic people. They're the ones where I can probably guess they're not like that. It's like, okay, well, they kind of get really mad when people push that shit on them. But like
Yeah.
for the most part, they come in all shapes and sizes. So it literally does not matter. It's like that's why I'm like, oh yeah, they're like Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
Like, you know,
So
just close
yeah.
the door on them. Like that's what it needs to be like. It's why are you trying to talk to them? Why are you trying to convince them of something? Why are you trying to? They're trying to get you to submit to their will. And just like a Jehovah's Witness, they will harass you and they will go to any length that they can get away with that you will allow them to do, they will do. And society has allowed them to get away with a lot because they're afraid. Well, initially they were afraid of being seen. Like Western society has like a fear of looking like a tyrant.
Yeah.
Like they don't like looking like the guy who has power over somebody else. They don't like looking like that. I mean, they don't mind having the actual power, of course,
Yeah.
but but they don't want to be seen as the guy that is that guy. So like that's the game they use against them. Like, oh well, they essentially accuse you of having power. Like, hey, you have power and you're using that power to oppress someone else. And
Yeah.
so then you say, no, I don't have power. Oh fuck, I do have power. I'm so sorry for having power. Here, have a share of my power. And by
Yeah.
doing so, you have now given them the ability to harass you, because then they say, well, how did you even get that power in the first place? You don't even deserve any of that power. But I deserve that power. We deserve that power. So you should be giving us that power
Mm.
because you don't even deserve it. You were just given that, you know? And so like that's how it's a power game. I- It's so it's like, yeah, just close the door. Like, okay. Have a nice day. Like I don't need to call you names or or,
Yeah.
or do all that. I wouldn't do that to a Jehovah's Witness because you're not worth the time. Bye bye. It's like once people get to that stage, we'll be good. We won't have to think about convoluted ways of creating community leaders and fighting wars and doing all this shit, because they'll be done at the base level. But until that happens, people have to be willing to say, I'm not entertaining that. We're not even talking about that.
Yeah.
It's like we have to get to that point, but we're not at that point yet. So
I think I think we need to do a better job of coming together. I know we all have our own lives, our own things that we have to do, but whether it's on in Discord, whether it's online, I think we just need to do a better job of like coming together and playing what we like to play, not being so bitter on, hey, my game isn't popular right now. Well, there's always a community for you, and you just got to find it. There's plenty of
is that true?
discords and say what?
I said, is that, but is that really true?
Yeah, like I feel like there's a community for almost every fighting game.
Well,
So
for okay, yes, there's a community for pretty much almost every fighting game, but is there a community for almost every person?
I think so. Now, if you're talking about like um just like an individual personality type thing, then no, it's like your personality either you have to be neutral or tolerant or something like that. But if you just have a personality where you just aren't tolerant of people, then no. But if you just want to find a community that you want to play in, whether it's the Tekken community, Virtua Fighter, Marvel Infinite. Uh, Hell, we just had a revival of Marvel Infinite. That game is like I don't know what 7 years old, something like that.
Yeah,
With Maximilian's mod, so
yeah.
there's always people wanting to play certain things. You just have to find them. We even have Fightcade, which I actually started back playing because I want to learn Capcom versus SNK 2. So when the collection come out, I'll be kind of be ready. But
There,
it's like you just have to want to, you know, find it.
if you're neutral and you want to play, you just want to play the game, I think that you're right. There is a community out there for everybody, or not for everybody, for those people. Like for people who just want to play the game. But it's not that simple because like
Mm.
the VF community is one of the greatest communities, at least I've been a part of, because they really just give a fuck about playing the game. They're about as neutral as I've been able to find in any community. Like they really
Yeah,
just want to play the game and talk about the game because they really like the game. Like so, it's not a chore to them to talk about it. They like it.
yeah.
Like
It's 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 definitely one of the most dedicated communities.
yes, it's fun for them to talk about the game. They like talking about it. But so the majority of them are good. But despite that, you're going to have people that join and they say like, "Hey, like I want to play the game or whatever," and blah blah blah. But when it comes down to playing the game, they're going to be like, "Oh, why does this person play like this? Why this, that, and the other?" And they're going to start issues and problems and things like that. So that guy is going to either have to adapt to his personality. I don't mean like necessarily a fighting game. I just mean like he's going to have to change his mindset, or eventually he's going to be soft kicked out because everyone's just going to say, "Hey, man, like, stop bitching," and
Hmm.
then he's out of here. I guess my point is that like you can't make something for everybody. All communities have a certain personality to them based around the people that are in the community because communities are simply the people who came together and wanted to play. That doesn't mean that's every person in the world who plays Mortal Kombat, whatever, right? Let's say Mortal Kombat 10. There are tons of people who play Mortal Kombat 10 and probably very well that never show up to anything. They're not considered a part of the community because they're unknown. You don't know who they are. And, maybe they only play online and then they never talk to anyone, you know. But the people that are in the community are the people who actually showed up to tournaments and you see them regularly. So they are automatically the community because they are the essentially like the skeleton because they're always there. Like they are the skeleton of whatever that community is. As long as they're there, there's a community because they always show up, right? And so, like by that nature, their personality sets the tone of the community. Like, you see what I mean? Like, if it's me, you, and if it's us three, and we're trying to start up the, I don't know, I'm trying to think of some the what game is that? What is that game called? Just Arcana Heart. Let's say we're gonna start up the Arcana Heart community, and like, you know, we are playing the crap out of this game. We are making tournaments, and like, we're always there, no matter what, right?
Mhm.
Like, no matter what, us three, we show up every time for even if it's just us three playing in a round robin. If people eventually show up, we dictate how the community goes, because like, we dictate it until we get outnumbered, until like a bunch of other people come in that say, oh well, we love it, and they're there just as much as we are.
Yeah.
So like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, I don't think that like communities are like this like blanket, like they're all the same. Like, oh well, like, you can just go in and play the Marvel guys, and then you can just go in and play the Soul Cal. No, like, it ain't like that. Like, there are community leaders, and then like their personality set the tone for that community, that local community, especially for the smaller games. For the bigger games, it does seem a little bit more homogenized because they're so big, and there's so many community leaders, and they're so nerfed in their personality that they are homogenized. So yeah, in Tekken, you probably aren't gonna really feel it like how you used to feel it back in the day. You
Yeah.
know, like the feel of what the Tekken community feels like doesn't really feel like that now. It's really watered down compared to what it was. But like, I've never heard anyone really talk about this, but I think that every fighting game community has a different personality based on. You used to feel that back in the day. It's less prevalent now, but based on the people who most inhabit it. The people who most inhabit it set the tone for that community. And we
Yeah.
all know different communities are different from one another. Like, that's not
Yeah.
something that's never been debated in, like, we debate a lot of stuff. Like, the fighting game community has debated a ton of stuff between each other. But the one thing that we don't debate is that all communities feel the same. Like, we
Mm.
always have made distinction, oh, the anime community, they're like this, and like, the the Tekken community, they're like that. Or, we've always like said, like, different communities, they're different from one another, even if we haven't like necessarily the Smash community, like, they're different from one another. The only reason why they're different is because the people who are in that community, their personality types, like, the people who are all community members are not the same. Like, but the people who are the skeleton of that community, who show up all the time, who you expect to be there, and like, they're always going to be there, people who run events, all that, their personality set the tone for that community.
Yeah.
And that's why that community is the way it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
I know exactly what you mean, especially with personalities like Mick and Majin and Shinblade. You know,
yeah.
like it was Fly Mike. Like it's
Yeah.
they're
It's
they
like,
definitely their personalities kind of
yeah, it was
shape the
fun.
tone of the whole community.
It did. It did. The Memphis community is a very fun and ridiculous community. At least it was when I was a part of it. And it was great. But when I moved, it was entirely different. It was entirely different. One of the first things I noticed is that everybody played their own games. In Memphis,
Hmm.
everybody plays everything.
Yep,
But in
everything.
but here it's like everybody plays their own games. They don't really cross into other games. At
Yeah,
least they do it more so now, but really not back then. And even to this day, they really don't. And so like, uh I was like, wow, that's really strange. Like, the Tekken people really just play Tekken, and the Street Fighter people, they just play Street Fighter. They may play a little Marvel. The anime people, they just play anime. They might play a little Street Fighter. The three, like, it was just like, wow, this is weird, man. And then they also had different personalities. Like, the way it felt, like, I would walk over to the Street Fighter guys, and I'd be like, man, this just feels different, dude. That, like, Uh, so yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like you know, if you want to, I guess like if you had some way that you were going to fix the Tekken community or something, or fix not Tekken community, fix a like fighting game community, it's impossible because you'd have to replace like you know what I mean? Like the amount of work would be retarded. Like you'd have to get a bunch of community leaders and you'd have to have those community leaders like liked by everybody. And then all those community leaders would have to have like a similar like way of thinking. It's just like it's so convoluted. It's not natural at all. It's like you're
Yeah.
doing what they're doing, but in the opposite direction. It's
Yeah.
too much too much work for fucking fighting games. It's like
I think
just like Mike said, these games aren't even good enough for me to be wasting my time on. It's
yeah.
like fucking A.
So I agree a little bit with that, or with the majority of it really. It's just that I think that you have to surround yourself with, or you have to get into a community where like people actually just care about the game, kind of like the VF.
Yeah,
But VF is like the VF players are hardcore though. They're
probably.
some of the most hardcore players that I've ever seen.
What
But
happens when that community gets introduced to the mainstream? Like the reason why VF is like that is because no one gives a fuck.
yeah,
It's
that's
actually
true.
still in the old school state that Josh talked about. Like, like it's in that state, and it's actually like finding a well preserved, like ancient, like cricket in amber. That's
Yeah,
what it's like. It's like, whoa, what the heck? That's why I'm having so much outside the game being great. That's why I'm having so much fun because the community is awesome too. It's like, wow, they just want to play the fucking game and they really like they like, hey, did you watch this tournament match footage with such and such and this, that, and the other? Like, oh, this person won and this, that. It's like I'm like, man, this feels like wow, this is awesome. And so, like,
hmm
that's why I get frustrated when people are like, I would play the game, but I can't get good because people play the game for 20 years. I'm like, you're not trying. You
yeah,
don't care. Shut up. Like it made me feel. I felt exactly the way I felt back in the day when I was learning Tekken. And people would say that about Tekken. I don't know 100 move, and I can't press a button, and I
yeah,
can't do this. And shut up. You're not trying. Shut up. Like I
yeah,
don't want to hear any of that shit. It's like it's the same shit. But the thing is that like VF is going to be introduced to the mainstream very soon with VF6. And
yeah. I don't know
depending
how
on the
that's
type
gonna
of
turn out.
game, well, it depends on the type of game it is. If VF6 is truly like a fundamental, just a virtual fighter game, it'll be fine because that will be a natural barrier. Like that's the thing. It's actually not hard to buff it against the mainstream kind of like brain rot like shit. It's not that difficult. It all starts with
Yeah,
the game. The game itself just has to not lose its fundamental identity. As long
yeah,
as it can remain that, then in the beginning it will get like that type of like rush. But then
yeah,
those people don't play video games. Like so they will eventually just die off. They
yeah.
will
They'll
buy the
phase
game.
out.
Yeah, they'll phase out. And then that will be the end. And then the people who remain will be the people who play the game. But if it's ridiculous, then and that's all you got, you have to keep being ridiculous to keep these people's attention span and to keep and honestly to kind of keep the old school playing, but they're not going to play for long. They're going to slowly leak out
Yeah,
because they can't quickly leak out because of the attachment they have to it. But like eventually, but this is the thing about core people. When they leave for good.
yeah,
Like because they are so like hurt by what you did, they never forget it.
yeah,
Like they're not like the shallow people who join. They join for shallow reasons, they leave for shallow reasons. So they're
yeah,
likely to join again. But people who join for deep reasons, they're never coming back if they leave. They never will.
yeah, yeah. That is so true. I've known like a lot of really great players leave communities because whatever. something negative.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because I feel like we need everybody. We need everybody to make a community. It ain't just one or two people, it's a group of people, you know? And
Yeah.
and like even sometimes when you're playing like even the quote unquote lower player, sometimes you can still learn things fighting that player too,
Yeah.
So you need everybody that actually wants to play the game, like you
That
said.
actually wants to play the game. Yeah, that's what I would say. You need the people who actually are motivated to play the game, and you need to make sure that starts with the game. It ain't about the community. I think the community is shit that's on top of it. It all starts with the game developers. The game developers have to have enough confidence in their fundamental game to not destroy it for novelty or for what's in vogue at the time. That's it. That's all it boils down. And it doesn't even have to be fighting games. It's not necessarily just with fighting games. It's every franchise. You'll have people that'll tell you things like, "Well, you can't just make the same game 10 times in a row, or you can't just do." It's like you can, and it will do well actually, because people don't get tired of cheeseburgers, they don't get tired of McGriddles, they don't
Pizza.
get tired of pizza. They
Mm.
don't get tired of bacon and egg sandwiches. Like, you don't get tired of that shit because it's good. You only stop eating it when it becomes unhealthy. And even then you might not stop. So
Yeah.
it's like, you don't get tired of that shit. You just don't get tired of good unless you eat it every day, non-stop, some shit like that. But like, you just don't get tired of that shit. You can eat a rotation of cheeseburgers, bacon and egg sandwiches, fucking pizza, and Kool-Aid forever if your body would never degrade. People would do that all day.
Yeah.
Like, and Oreo sleeves. It's like, come
I,
on,
I
man.
think I think yes, you're right, but I still think that um if it stays the same, just completely the same, it'll get stale.
This is
But
the thing.
it just depends on how the level change that you make. If you just like the level of change, if it's like way in the out of space type of change, then like okay, no. But if it's like subtle changes that you know the game still retains its identity, then yeah.
Well, this is the thing, though. It ain't about whether the changes are necessarily subtle changes or whether they're big changes. If I were to go to the extreme of my argument and say it's literally the exact same game, even though I've never really made that argument, but if I were to, I would still hold that my statement is more true than it is false. And the
Hmm.
proof of that is Fightcade. The proof of that is constant re-releases of old games
That's
that
true.
still have player bases and are going to be at Evo,
That's
literally
true.
unchanged.
That is true.
Same exact fucking game. So it's like, you can.
I think
How
it's
many
more.
times has Resident Evil 4 been sold to people? A million times.
And see, I think it's more of the type of game that you like to play. I think those games are just classic, and people just love those games.
What do you mean? Fighting games?
Yeah, like the older games that they keep releasing,
Yeah, because
like
they're
those.
fundamentally good games.
Mhm.
That's my point. That's why
Yeah,
I'm going back to what I'm saying. If the fundamental game is very good, you don't change it because that can be sold indefinitely. What you do is that foundation, you don't change that. You may add something on top of it. That's what Tekken 6 is. Tekken 6 is Tekken 5, but they said, let's put Bound in the game and let's put Rage in it. But the fundamental system of Tekken is Tekken 5. It's
yeah,
just we have Bound on top and we got Rage on top. We got some
yeah,
new characters. It doesn't Bound and Rage did were pretty decent sized. They weren't huge changes, but they weren't small changes.
yeah.
They
It means something.
dramatically, yeah,
Yeah, it
they
did mean
definitely
something.
miss something. But that's not the point. Whether they be big or small, it's are they foundational changes or not? And in my opinion, for most video games that are successful and that have been successful for a while, you don't change a game foundationally. I have more proof that I'm right than the other way around.
Mhm.
Every time a game changes its foundation, it tends to die very quickly, even if it gets an initial pop on that first one. It tends to die. Look at Dynasty Warriors. Look at all of the Warriors games in general. Those games
Yeah.
are fundamentally the same, but there's a million of them.
Yeah.
How is that possible? If what
Yeah.
I'm saying is wrong, that people, oh, well, people will just get tired of them. That's not true.
Yeah.
It's just not true. That's what people want to think because logically it makes sense. In the
Yeah.
mind of logic, of pure logic, why would you just keep doing the same thing over and over again?
Yeah.
Because it's subjectively fun. And you're not playing
Yeah.
it 24 hours a day. Yeah, if I was eating a cheeseburger constantly 24 hours a day, yeah, I would get tired of cheeseburgers.
Yeah.
Yes, I would get tired of anything if I was just constantly eating cheeseburgers 24/7. But that's not how
Yeah.
it works. I drink some water, I take a shit, I go do my job, I do a bunch of other shit, and then I say, damn, that cheeseburger yesterday was so good. I think I want another one.
Yeah.
It's like
But
that's how it
see,
works.
even then, like you can take the cheeseburger analogy, right? But you got cheeseburger with bacon, you got cheeseburger with
Yes.
avocado, you have different toppings and dressings, barbecue, bacon burger. It's like, even though it's fundamentally the same, you still spicing it up a little bit.
Right, exactly. Yes, there's nothing wrong with that. But the foundation of what a fucking hamburger is that it's ground beef on a piece of bread,
Yeah.
and there's another piece of bread on top of it. Whatever is on top or underneath that fucking piece of ground beef, as long as there's bread that's in between that, we're good.
Yeah.
It's like it's not that complicated, but people want to reinvent the wheel. They want to go and be like, "Oh, well, look, like it's a piece of chicken, but it's a burger. It's still a
Hey,
burger. It's a meal."
Impossible burger. Let's give
Yeah,
it an
yeah, like
impossible burger.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then people are like continually confused when
Terrible.
people are like I don't like when people are like, "Why are you responding in this violent way? Like you're violently against it." It's like yes, because you fundamentally change what it is they came here to get. So of course that they're not happy because they feel like they've been fooled. It's
Yeah.
like like it's not that hard to think about, but it's like but people they like it. What sometimes people don't care about like what the foundation or fundamental is or whatever, right? So something they have novelty bias. So it's new, they like it. It's
Yeah.
fresh and new, so they like it, and that's that. And they're mad that you don't like it because they don't understand how you can't like it. It's new. Why don't you
Yeah.
like it? You know,
Yeah.
and so
It's like going from Guilty Gear Exert to
yeah,
Guilty Gear Strive.
right.
It's like
Yeah,
this
that's
is not the
exactly what it
same.
is.
This is Strive is an impossible burger. It's
Yes.
like it's supposed to be. It was like okay, it's Guilty Gear, but it's not really Guilty Gear. Like,
Uh,
what?
when you cut through the meat, it's white, just like chicken. And the breading is brown, just like a chicken nugget. It's like, you know,
Like
and
no.
then you have people that walk up to you like, man, in actuality, it really is kind of like Guilty Gear. If we look at the first Guilty Gear ever made, it's like, bro, like who when you're talking about like comparing any fighting game, when do we ever look at the first one with
Yeah,
Street Fighter 1
like who?
or a Tekken 1?
Tekken
Like,
one. Oh my
yeah,
god, with
like,
the
no
moon
one
jumps.
does that. No one does that. It's always based on the good one. Like that's why I keep going back to what is like the foundation that worked. We can all name, then we can all start naming it. We all know that for any one of the series: Street Fighter 2, Tekken 3, Soul Calibur 1. Uh, uh, well, with VF was kind of like good from the start, to be
Dead or
quite
Alive
honest.
too.
Dead or Alive 2 for
Oh
Dead or
yeah,
Alive. That's easy as hell.
yeah.
Dead or Alive 2.
Dead
It's
or
like
Alive 2 was so good.
it's like
It
you
still
can
looks good.
you can name the foundation that works for any game for a fighting game like that. Like you just boom, like, okay, it's this one. Yeah, it's like, oh, it's this one. Yeah. And then if you can't, it's probably because the first one actually, this was one of the few times where the first one was the one.
Yeah.
It's like, oh shit, it was actually the first one. It's like, but very, very rarely is it the first one is usually the absolute worst, doesn't even resemble what you would call
Yeah.
that game in the slightest. You're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Tekken 1?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Tekken 1 before?
Yeah.
It's like, hell no, dude. Fucking Virtua Fighter 1 played at 30 frames per second.
Really? Did
Yes.
not know that.
Well, that was all they could fucking manage. Shit was
Yeah.
powerful. It's like, so yeah,
Well,
it's like, yeah, whatever. But yeah.
yeah. Well, that's all I really have for today, guys. Any last words? Any thoughts? Anything you want to add before we get off of here?
Yes, fuck the FGC.
No, the FGC is needed, Josh.
No, it's not. Not anymore.
Hiya.
Maybe 10 years ago, but today, yeah, I'll say we need it once we get rid of literally everybody in it right now.
Hey, I got you. What about you, Cross? Any last words before we get out of here?
No, I'm gonna probably get something to eat. Or no, nah, I don't need nothing to eat. It's too late. I'm gonna get something to drink.
Okay. Man, you know what? I kind of want to play that Marvel Rivals. I hate that y'all got me playing that Marvel Rivals game, man.
Oh, yeah. Well,
It's like it been on my mind to push that one button with Venom and run around and get killed.
Ting ting.
Ting 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 ting.
Yeah.
Terrible. Oh, but man, I just want to thank you guys for coming on the stream with me. All your input is always appreciated.
Mhm.
Also, everybody that tuned in, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys for watching us old men ramble, reminisce about the past.
I hate clouds.
But you guys got any tags that you guys want to plug in?
Yeah, follow me on the Immortal Afro on X, Twitch, and YouTube. I'll be streaming some Marvel Rivals pretty soon, as well as maybe collaborate with a friend of mine, old Retro Roy, on
Snap.
some old. I think I haven't come up with a name for the series yet, but I think it's gonna have something to do with nostalgia.
Man, I am looking forward to seeing that. I can't wait to see it because I love nostalgia. So
yeah, I got the first episode. It's a little bit of a tearjerker because it means something to me. It's like, what was I doing when I first realized that Dead or Alive 4 existed? Boy, that shit was hard.
hey, I got some videos that I've been thinking about doing as well. We'll see. But I definitely got some things in the head that I kind of want to get out on paper and on YouTube. So
that sounds good.
But hey, like I said, thanks everybody for tuning in. Hey, we'll see you guys later. Peace.
Peace.